Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the mayor who has attended this on a faithful basis, takes that time out of his day to come down here and share the moment with us, from Mayor Lorenzo Langford. Thank you. And it is the truth. Bill Southry is in the house. This is like an Elvis signing here at the mission. I had the privilege last year of talking about a very dear friend of mine, happened to be my best man at my wedding, Bob MacArthur. Bob's name's not going to be read today. Bob's was last year. And what I want you to keep in mind is that while our list changes every year, there are people that we need to keep remembering. And I remember Bob every day. I remember that he lost his way through a series of tragic events. I remember that there were only a handful of people at his funeral. A handful of people when he had had a life of impact. He had worked with me at the Harbor Fields Detention Center. He had worked in the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office as an investigator. He had served his community in a variety of very significant capacities, helping kids throughout Atlantic City. He was admired, he was known, and those tragic events took him down. He lost his house, he lost his family, and eventually he lost his life. And I will remember Bob every day. If you want to touch a little bit of Bob, happens to be up in Bill's hallway, one of the pictures that Bob did here. He was an excellent artist. I go up and see it every time I'm here to visit Bill. So I'd like to just spend a few moments to you talking about health care and homelessness. They're intertwined. They're woven together in a very unique way. There are 45.7 million people who don't have health care, and Americans call that a tragedy. I'm not sure what word they would use to describe the fact that 70% of homeless people have no health care. That 45 million represents only 15% of the population. Contrast that with 70% of the people that are sitting in this room or sitting in the mission or out on the street now have no health care. It's more than a tragedy. The homeless are 3 to 6 times more likely to become ill than those who are housed. Homelessness precludes good nutrition, good personal hygiene, basic first aid. Chronic conditions like TB, diabetes, HIV, extremely difficult to treat among those without housing. Listen to this. Now, if you experience frostbite, immersion foot, or hypothermia, the risk of death from other causes is 8 times more likely for an individual that has experienced any of those 3 things. 8 times more likely. The use of health care is hampered by a variety of reasons. It's access, it's not knowing, it's embarrassment about filling out forms. It's a whole variety of things. Maybe you haven't been treated well by a healthcare system in the past, and you don't want to go back there again. As a result of these factors, homeless are 3 to 4 times more likely to die than the general public is in any given year. We've got a whole team of people working here at the rescue mission. We wouldn't do it without a fabulous partner. In fact, we named it after the mission. It's called Mission Healthcare. We did that for a reason, to acknowledge the partner that we have. You're sitting in a cafeteria now that is used for all kinds of things. It's used for eating. Some of our chefs are in the back. It's used for church. It's used for services. It's used for education. Why? Because Bill and his staff allowed us to take what used to be the meeting hall and turn it into healthcare. We did that several years ago. We've been able to provide, last year, 28,000 visits. This year, we're in over for 30,000 visits, healthcare visits for individuals without insurance. It's 30,000 visits that 10 years ago didn't happen. That 10 years ago, if they did happen, they happened in an emergency room. And they happened to do what we call treat and street. You went to the emergency room, you got treated, you're out in the street again. No continuity of care. We're not responsible. We're there to do emergency treatment. We usually treat you at the worst time when you have something that's gone beyond where it should go, and we treat you in a way that results in you back on the street again with nobody picking up the follow-up care. Well, here at Mission Health, we can do all of that. We can treat you before anything gets chronic. We can treat you before anything gets to the emergency level. It's right here.
This is about health care and the homeless, and I think you hit a point with me that is, I think, important for us all to realize, is that good health care is important. It took many years to pull this off. It took actually the right person being put in the system at the right time, and that was Don. And for someone to actually listen about putting health care in a site like this. And it is all about location, 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 you know. But beyond that, the healthcare is the need for housing. And for all those that are here today that are residentially challenged, that needs to be a goal of our communities, is to find places for you to be. And I want you to know that we're committed collaboratively, as well as, with JFS and others, to do the housing projects and to try to create homes and places for you to inhabit, as opposed to the mission. I started here 30 years ago, and 50 people was a big night. Now it's 350. I was hoping that I'd work myself out of a position, and it's gone another direction, and there's something happening societally that needs to be looked at, and what's happening to you in your lives and what's occurred. And it's important for us to evaluate that and really take notice and try to help you in more ways than we presently are.
I'm going to make reference to one of the gentlemen that is on the list today. A gentleman that I dealt with while I was doing outreach for 3 years plus. This morning I woke up. JM was on my mind. Did he make it through the night? Did he find a warm place to stay? Was he okay? Or would he be added to today's list? I knew that one of my first tasks in outreach would be to check his spot to see if he was there. When I got there, I was somewhat relieved to find him there. However, not to find him there. The next question, though, was he in the hospital, in the jail, or in worse? Finally, I got to the nearest public bathroom. He wasn't there, but another homeless man had seen him. Within just a few minutes, JM walked in. Unfortunately, for reasons known only to himself, he refused to come back to the mission with me that day. Unhappily, this year, I answered my phone one morning in September, around the 20th of September. As a matter of fact, the case note says it was September 23rd. Received word from ACPD that client was found dead on the street this date. Sent contact info by fax to ACPD. That was my case note. Footnote to a life that I'd been dealing with for over 3 years. We had tried so hard to bring him in. He had come in sometimes, and just a few weeks before had come back in to have another chance at recovery. He was detoxing. Something happened. He went back out. I remember one time when he was here for about a month, and I would talk with him, and one day he came to me and he said, "Chaplain Charlie," he says, "can God forgive me? Can God forgive me?" It was something that touched my heart, and I spoke with him at length about the forgiveness of God. I hope that I convinced him that day that he could be forgiven.
Would you please remove all hats and head coverings out of respect for those who have gone on before us? Alexia S., Mary L., Frank M., Gail Daniels, Mary Lukowski, Howard W., Leroy A., Larry A., Brent B., Gladstone C., Larry D., Mike D., William G., Carl H., Martha K., Edward K., Minerva L., Phil M., John M., Paul R., Jose R., Christopher S., Aaron Sparkman,